for the bacon, but that's just my thought.
Oh, yeah, just
I'm
that.
kind of suspicious. It might be.
Challenge, right? It's a yes and.
Yeah, yes, and. Oh, you've been in our meetings.
Let's just get a nice. Cool.
All right.
All set.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with what's your name and what do you do at Tidepool?
I'm Katie DiSimone, and at Tidepool, I am working on Tidepool Loops training and content documentation. So basically, laying out the framework for how people will use Loop, how they'll understand it, help them troubleshoot any issues they have, and basically help also provide that bridge so that clinicians know how to talk to their patients about it and understand where they can support them best. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
How did you come to join Tidepool?
I never expected to be working in diabetes. I came to Tidepool because of my involvement with DIY Loop. We've been looping with my daughter, who's 16 now, for about 3 years. And through the process of DIY looping, we actually came to find out about Tidepool Loops project. And Howard Look, the CEO of Tidepool, said, "We're going to do this amazing thing. Do you want to be a part of it?" And it's like, yeah, this is an amazing thing that I could actually help other people sleep at night and have the benefits I've been experiencing for 2.5 years. Why wouldn't you want to share that? That's amazing. Ironically, I actually, as part of starting my work with Tidepool Loop, went back to my computer and booted it up and said, "Oh, Tidepool Uploader, let me play with this." And I saw all of my old Omnipod PDM data that I hadn't seen in so long from my daughter, because prior to looping, we were using Omnipods and I was using Tidepool's Uploader to get all of my information. So it's kind of a full circle moment for me when I went, oh, now I'm going to take Loop and I'm looking at Tidepool, and we already had that connection, and it was just really nice, natural. Yeah.
What do you like most about working at Tidepool?
Oof. I'm a bit of a pragmatist, so I'd probably put what I like the most about working for Tidepool would be the feeling like I'm making a practical difference for people. That at the end of all of this, people will have a seamless ability to get sleep at night, to feel more comfortable with their kids going on sleepovers, to going to diabetes camps, to getting all of those awesome kid experiences without the specter of diabetes interruptions. That practical part of it for me is amazing. The second part is completely selfish in that I am meeting and working with the most amazing, innovative, groundbreaking set of people that you just don't find anywhere else. And it's motivating and exciting, and it brings parts of me awake and enthusiastic that just aren't normally given the opportunity to air and shine in such a way as the Tidepool environment brings. And it's so rewarding. So there's a little bit of altruism and a little bit of, wow, this also is really cool for me. So yeah, that's what I really like working about Tidepool.
Nice. Could you share a little bit about your connection to diabetes and your daughter's story?
Yeah, so my connection to diabetes started in 2015, March 30th, 2015 in particular. My daughter, Anna, had been getting skinnier, drinking lots of water, and we had all of the typical excuses. It had been months of lots of Taekwondo workouts and, oh, she's thirsty from exercise. She's losing weight because she's growing. And then she wasn't growing and she was just getting skinnier. And finally, we had a reminder from the pediatrician that she hadn't been in for a while. And my husband said, should we take her in? I said, no, it's during school time. Unless she's due for vaccinations, we won't go in. So we called, no vaccinations due. So, oh, we'll put it off. So 2.5 months later, my husband said, it's too much. Something's up. Let's bring her in. It's spring break, first day, no school interruption. We have no excuses. He took her in, And they said it's growth hormones. It's a bug. Who knows? It's not a big deal. And he refused to leave the office until they did a test. And as he said it to me, he told them, take fluids, take blood, take urine, take whatever you need, but test something. And they did a urine test. And while he was waiting in line at the blood draw, they called and said, take her to the ER. She has type 1 diabetes. And our whole world was crushed. So that's how I got into diabetes. And I know my story is similar. Wow, I haven't cried about this in 4 years. But looking back on that day for where we were then and where we are now is mind-blowing. They tell you when you get a diagnosis, don't go to the internet. And I didn't. I sat in the hospital and I put my phone down and I waited patiently till we got out of the hospital and I had a chance to shower and get my own bed and wrap my head around it. And the first time I opened the internet and looked at what type 1 diabetes was in the world to other people, it was simultaneously incredibly scary and also incredibly empowering and loving, because I saw all these kids out on soccer fields and I saw hashtag T1D that was people living normal, great lives. And it was a warm embrace to a scary situation. And I think that has always carried us through, is that the community support is second to nothing. If you have to be dropped into a situation like type 1 diabetes, wow, what a tribe to land with. Like, amazing. So.
Yeah. Is there anything you...
Sorry, I'm just gonna
Oh.
real quick. We have a situation with this post
Oh,
right
it's,
Oh no!
it's sliding its way
Slowly,
down the wall.
yeah.
We'll see.
I can
Like-
read you.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Very slight. Yeah, it's like not. in
Oh, I
focus,
might have also
so-
just dropped. No.
Smaller piece.
Oh, I just dropped.
Half that.
Oh.
Hold on. I can read.
I'll sneak it up top and I get that twisted up as well. I'll just really secure it there.
Hold on. I'm dropping. I think I need this redone. Sorry, I'm probably blowing out your eardrums. This thing fell.
Need more tape.
Yeah.
You want this tape or? No, the other one.
Do like a little bit
Do you want me to tape it?
of a tighter roll. Yeah, if you could
One
tape it
second,
to your
please.
skin.
I can help you.
It's just.
The idea is
Do you want me to
Sorry,
tape it?
sorry.
How far down do you want it?
this idea is
You did it.
It's like your sternum.
Oh, there you
right?
go.
Like about here.
one and this one,
Oh,
There we go.
stop moving.
and we can cover. No, in your chest.
The yellow.
Oh,
part.
the reverse.
I think he was saying
Okay,
like
and
we
if you wanna cover with this one,
Sure.
Oh.
Like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
Is that good?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, we could,
I
Thank
didn't
you.
add
could we
anything.
unplug it from the ceiling?
Oh, from the.
That'd be so hard to plug it back in.
Yeah.
I didn't think I
Alright.
added anything, or.
Nobody
something.
move.
Yeah, these lights are pretty overpowered.
Oh, till it goes down.
I don't think it affects it, does it?
You still
Mhm.
Alright.
And we're still rolling.
Yep.
We're still rolling?
Yep.
Okay. Take a breath. So, is there anything that you wish that someone had told you when you first got your daughter's diagnosis? Like, that whole situation?
Ooh. I've often thought of that because I've met a lot of newly diagnosed people, and it's a struggle because it's so much. So I don't know that I have anything in particular that's super helpful other than I'm here for you. There's a lot of people here for you. So on an initial diagnosis, there's so much overwhelming information that it's hard to pick one good thing to say. So I think in those situations, just a message of support is what I would tell people. I remember sitting in our endocrinology appointment, the very first one, and I was taking notes in my engineer way. I'm an engineer by degree and training. So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to have a process for this. And I was trying to flow chart all the decisions that we should make and how we should dose insulin based on what we were doing and what the endocrinologist. So I heard, okay, if you're going into exercise and your blood sugar is 250 or above, you want to take half a unit of correction or So I'm writing all this out, and by the end of it, my flow chart on my paper was an absolute spaghetti mess of nothing that I could understand. And I felt so defeated. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to navigate this. And not only am I not going to be able to navigate, I'll never be able to explain this to a caregiver, to a teacher, to a nurse. Like, how can I put this complexity into things? And so probably my first advice to somebody just getting into this is to take a breath. It will become natural. It's not natural at first. And it will get easier. It won't get easy. It will get easier. And then selfishly, Loop wasn't around when we started. And once you can find your balance, there are tools out there that will help you feel like you've regained some parts of yourself back that the diagnosis had taken from you. I think that'd be my takeaway for people. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. I guess this is a perfect segue then. How did you first hear about the DIY loop and how did you get involved?
So this is where I'm going to start to cry. So where we first found out about DIY Loop is a really weird way that most people never, like when I tell this story, people go, what? So my daughter was on Omnipods and she was quite happy with it, with the exception of the large PDM bag that she had to carry. As with most kids, she got a little tired of lugging around a big bag. So she was due to start high school, and it was summer between middle school and high school. And she said, Mom, I want a tubed pump. And everything went to practical. My engineering brain said, but we're under contract and warranty for PDM. I can't get you a tubed pump like that. And then I remembered in the back of my head that I had seen online that people were doing an automated insulin delivery system on a DIY system called OpenAPS. And I thought, wait, if she wants a tubed pump, I'm going to have to buy a used pump anyway. I could marry these two things together. So I looked online for a used old Medtronic pump and thought, I'll kill two birds with one stone. Turned out it was a lot harder to find a used pump than I had expected. I pulled some strings with some people who had connections, and I got a used Medtronic pump. Then I started gathering all of my OpenAPS supplies, and when I laid out the supplies, it was way too big for my daughter to ever accept. It would have been a fanny pack. It would have been troubleshooting. It would have been a whole bunch of things when all she wanted was a tubed pump. And as she said, to make her diabetes more visible. I don't think she meant that visible. I don't think she meant fanny pack size visible. And so I started searching the internet for small OpenAPS, tiny OpenAPS, miniaturized OpenAPS, itty bitty bitty. So I was trying all these diminutive versions. And finally I stumbled across a Twitter post using the hashtag OpenAPS that also had two other hashtags, which was loop and we are not waiting. And I thought, I know the other two, but what's this middle one? What's this loop? And it was a picture of a kid holding an iPhone, and on the iPhone screen was an app I had never seen before, a face. And I remember taking the picture and zooming in on it and pulling it out so I could see what was on the screen. I was like, what is this? And so I started searching, and I found a Getter group that was all about loop. And I remember stumbling into it thinking like I had been walking through an enchanted forest and suddenly found a hidden cave. Like, what is this secret and how did I not know it was there? And so I asked like really basic questions. Is this snake oil? What is this? Is this real? And if it's real, how come everybody isn't doing it? Because at the time it was a very small group of people doing it. And so that was how I first found out about Loop. And it was like I had found a gold bar sitting on the ground and I felt so lucky. Yeah.
Then tell us a little bit about the setup and kind of actually getting started with it.
So when our setup and introduction into looping was kind of disjointed a little bit. I had found this online community chat room, basically, of people who were developing Loop and or using Loop. Most of them were using it at the time. And I was asking questions about how do I build this, or how did you guys build this, and is it ready for use? And I was kind of feeling my way around, and somebody in the group pointed me to a Google Doc that they said they were developing for the instructions on Loop. So I said, okay. So I went to the Google Doc, and it explained a Riley link, and it explained the concept of looping, and it had some good stuff. And I thought, okay, good, there's instructions. So I bought my Riley link, and I was all set to try this new version. And I got to the part of the directions that said, build your app, build your Loop. And I'm not joking, what it said was, insert meat and potatoes here. This is where people will need help. And I thought, I don't know how to build an app. I'm the person who needs the meat and potatoes. I need this. And so I said, well, I'm going to figure this out. If all of them have figured it out, I know Google, I'm internet friendly, I will figure this out. So with a lot of help from Googling and just basically sitting down and learning what Xcode was, how it worked, and a lot of forum posts from other people doing app building, I finally got to the point where I could build the app. And I remember pushing the play button in Xcode to build Loop the first time. And when it showed up on the phone, it was like, it happened. Oh my gosh. And then I realized, I don't know what I did. Oh no, I can't do this again. So I deleted it off my phone, which I kind of thought was a pretty ballsy move. Deleted it off, and I pulled out a piece of paper and a pencil, and I said, I am going to write every step down. And so as I was going through it, every step that I did, I wrote down. And when I did the step wrong or I had to retrack, I scratched it out. I went back up to the start and eventually got a sheet of paper that had all of the steps I needed to build Loop again on the phone in a nice, clean way. And so that was my introduction to sort of finding a way into the DIY Loop community, sort of my place in it. So sort of the longer version of how I became involved in DIY Loop. Kind of transition here, take a little left turn. But so after building my Loop and writing down my instructions, we spent, I think, about a month and a half using Loop. To say it was the most amazing month and a half of my entire life was like not a lie. It was overwhelming emotions were brought up from this, from the core of my being that said, life won't be safe again. That was addressed and filled. It said, this is going to be safe. My kid's going to go to college and be okay, and I'm going to be okay, and we're going to have a normal relationship that's not centered on diabetes. And it was just this healing process. And when you have that much emotion, you want to dump it on somebody else in gratitude. That's the first thing, is I need to tell people this, that they meant something and they've made something amazing. And right about the same time as I was feeling this just flood of gratitude that I needed to release somewhere in some way, Night Scout had a hackathon planned in the Bay Area, which was 3 hours from my house. And I heard that one of the Loop developers was going to be there. And I thought, hackathon, that's not me. I'm not a hacker. I'm just somebody who looped. But I'll find a way in. So I said, how about if I take pictures? How about if I'll find some use. I really wanted to attend so that I could be there to say thank you in person and give a hug. And so long story short, I went up to the hackathon and I gave Pete Schwam this incredibly awkward, personal, space invading, huge bear hug and said the gratitude of what it meant to me. And it felt like this enormous release. And I was so dopamine filled with being able to feel like I had imparted the gratitude. And 2 hours later, I realized my gratitude wasn't done. It's still there. What can I do with this? How can I keep this going? I went to Pete and I said, what can I do for you? He said, really casual, because this is Pete's way. He said, "You'll find something." I thought, what? No, give me something concrete. He said, "You'll find something. It's okay." And at the end of the hackathon, I realized what my something was. My something was going to be to insert the meat and potatoes. I was going to be the meat and potatoes insert. I could take my sheet of paper and I could put it out there for other people to really follow. People who were intimidated by building an app, people who were intimidated about the whole process, that I could be just like them, because I am just like them. I am a normal person who doesn't write programs that change lives. I'm the person who sat down and said, I need to make a better life for my kid. And I'm willing to read a piece of paper. That's all you need to be able to do, was read a piece of paper. And so that was where it clicked for me, that I could pay back, and I did find my way. Just like Pete said, you'll find it. And so that was how it grew and evolved into me being someone that people could recognize as part of themselves in this project. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. What is your favorite part about being involved in the DIY Loop community?
Oof. So my favorite part about being involved in the DIY Loop community, and I'm even going to say even further, is it's like the whole DIY community, because the DIY Loop community is pulling from so many branches of where people are in their diabetes. It's my favorite part. It's just got to be the people, hearing their stories and hearing the relief, hearing the excitement. Diabetes isn't exciting. There's nothing exciting about managing a chronic condition, but there's excitement now. There's excitement that the burden is relieved and that people can go about their lives like they imagined it to be, like it used to be for many of them. It's empowering to feel like you get connected to all of these people in ways that you never expected. I have my diabetes story, and it's this big. I get little globs all the time added on to my story, and it creates this big community feel for me. Every time I go online, I see people connecting, and it's so powerful. It's really powerful. I even tattooed it.
How do you bring that sort of community building feeling now being at Tidepool? And do you feel like there's overlap? How do you sort of connect but also disconnect DIY Loop from Tidepool and Tidepool Loop?
Ooh, yeah. So connecting myself between DIY Loop and Tidepool Loop has been both at the same time a struggle and an ease. All people knew me as was DIY Loop, and depending on where they met me, if it was through Tidepool Loop first or DIY Loop first, I often use the analogy of wearing different hats, is that sometimes I'm wearing a DIY Loop Katie hat and sometimes I'm wearing a Tidepool Katie hat. So for me, the important part is helping people understand the differences between the two systems and how they naturally are alike and how they will be different eventually to the end user. So the grassroots part of DIY Loop will always be there and is super important to the Tidepool Loop story. DIY community members have always felt like the progress was slow and their voices weren't heard. And to have somebody like Tidepool come in, and I speak about it as a person, Tidepool isn't an organization or a company, it's people. So to have Tidepool come in, literally feeling like a person, like somebody who cares to ferry you through a process, that's how Tidepool came in to me when I was first contacted and saying, we would like to take DIY Loop through an FDA process and get it available in the App Store for people to be able to download. The funny part is people say, isn't that kind of your part of DIY Loop, is being able to ferry people from the state of not having it to the state of having it? I am so happy that that crown will come off my head, and people, not that I put it there, but that's how it's seen, is that people will then be able to do this for themselves and have this super seamless structure to get it on their phone and have it be understood not just by themselves, but a really important part of that is clinicians. Patients' access to technology is in many ways defined by their relationships with endocrinologists and insurance companies. Tidepool can break that in half. They can separate that out and make it available because their endocrinologists will have the access to be able to do that for them, and insurance companies will understand it. And it's that part of it that's really hard for a DIY community to break through, and it's testament to the power of looping and community voice to get out there. It was grassroots, and the grassroots reached trees. It grew forests, and that's how Tidepool is going to change things now. It's going to crack even bigger, and that's amazing. Yeah.
No, it's really good. This is close to kind of what you've already been saying, but what are you most excited for with Tidepool Loop? Either working on it or maybe the outcomes that you might see.
I am most excited about Tidepool Loop's ability to reach people who were scared before. We, as part of DIY looping, and I'll say even for my own family, when I told them about what I was doing, hey mom, I'm building your granddaughter that you love so much an artificial pancreas off the internet. she thought it was nuts. So there's a fear factor for a lot of people, and I think the ability to help them have the information about people's experiences on an artificial pancreas system, a closed loop, how it's worked for them. The observational study that's being conducted by JABE will provide really meaningful input from a wide range of users, and I think that will help people give context to it. So I think even from the not just looking at the endpoint of Tidepool Loop, that it's easy to download from the App Store, all of the process that Tidepool Loop will have to go through in order to become a product in the App Store is really important, and I'm super excited to be a part of all of those underpinning foundational steps. Every time I talk to Tidepool employees, that part of it is so important and so mission critical that I know they're going to do it right, and that's huge, huge. Yeah.
All right, this is my last question, and then I can open up if you have anything else.
Can we get the sound?
One second.
Oh, the airplane?
Wow, you guys are like on it.
We got
He's hearing my breathing and my heartbeat, I think. Pulse check. Am I doing okay?
You're doing
You're
great.
Yeah,
doing
all right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too many tears.
Just the right amount.
Yeah, we're all set.
Okay. What do you think the future looks like for the DIY hat Katie and then the Tidepool Loop Katie?
So is Tidepool Katie going to replace DIY Katie? Not at all. I'll still be around. One of the things I asked Howard, the CEO for Tidepool, was, hey, Howard, if I join your team, does that mean I have to leave DIY land? Because I've got a community support over here, and I think it's really important. And he said, absolutely not. I don't want to stifle that voice. I want that dialogue to continue. And so DIY Katie is not going anywhere. I think it is going to be something that I also see as helping bridge when Tidepool Loop is out. There's going to be a lot of people in DIY Loop or otherwise that are going to look at it and say, how is it different? How is it the same? Will my experiences in DIY Loop translate to Tidepool Loop? And I want to be there to help answer those questions. I think my daughter's experiences are helping to fulfill a need, but there's a lot of voices that need to be told, and I don't want to lose that connection to help people go in both directions. One of the underpinnings of Tidepool is choice, empowerment, making meaningful decisions. And there's a lot of avenues to get there, and DIY Loop is still going to have a community and a voice, and Tidepool's open to it, and they're listening. And so, yeah, those two things aren't in conflict. They're in support, and they're together. So, yeah, that's not going anywhere.
Awesome.
Thanks.
You have any questions?
Yeah, so do you have a piece of advice for families wanting to be more empowered despite the diabetes diagnosis? And talk to Lindsay.
Oh, talk to her.
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
Just a piece of advice for families wanting to be more empowered.
Oh, so diabetes takes away your feeling of control sometimes in your life about how you could leave your house and how you could do your activities. I think empowerment of a person with diabetes is really important, and that ripped apart feeling that you have when you're sitting in your endocrinologist's office after a diagnosis is crushing. As you feel like you just got a backpack full of supplies, a heart full of fear, and a stomach full of nausea. And empowering you to be able to put those bags down and those feelings down and feel whole again is huge. And when you first get diagnosed, that clinician knows you're sitting in a pool of anxiety and overwhelming confusion, and they drip the information out to you so that you don't drown further. And that's really kind of them, but long-term strategy, it's not the best empowering for the patient. So I would say that in order to have that empowerment and that feeling like you can handle this, is to over time grow that discussion and crack that box open with your endocrinologist and say, okay, I'm ready for a little more. And when you go in and they download your settings and your CGM history and your boluses and your basals and what injections and all of that, when you go in and you show them your snapshot under your hood of anxiety and worry and am I being judged, don't take the judgments in. Open the box of conversation and say, how are you doing this? What are you looking at? How does this setting impact what you're telling me over here? And by slowly opening that door of conversation with your endocrinologist, it's no longer a black box. And you're going to feel empowered that you understand what it is that they're looking at as well. And you can start having the dialogues about what you feel comfortable taking on and what you feel comfortable putting back in your backpack and saying, this feels a little better. I think I can take this now. And I think that feeling of, this backpack's feeling more balanced. That takes time and takes conversations, and your endocrinologist needs to know you're ready for it. And so having that conversation is super important. Yeah.
And how do you get through all the setbacks? Like, what keeps you going? It can be like a more emotion-based answer rather than technical.
Yeah. So I saw that. I know you guys did too. I was like, stop. There's a moth. So in our journey through diabetes, there's been, and not just Loop in particular, but there's been setbacks. I had a 12-year-old that got diagnosed, and we were just on the cusp of, goodbye, little butterfly, go fly your wings, get your independence. And it was supposed to be this struggle over independence like every other parent had. And instead, I was having the struggle without sleep, without rest, with a kid who was scared or a kid who was tired and high or low. And those setbacks in our relationship that diabetes brought in, wow, that was a real challenge. And when we first got to Loop, I thought I was getting blood sugar automation, and that would have been great. And that was all I was focused on, was I'm going to be able to more easily control blood sugars. And if I get to sleep at night, that'd be great. But what I didn't know is that Loop gave me back my daughter, my relationship with my daughter. I wasn't texting her about diabetes. I was texting her about the boy she likes and the prom dress. And this week that we're here all together as Tidepool, working on Tidepool Loop, do you know the text messages that I've got from my daughter? She showed me her prom dress. She showed me my dog missing me. She told me about going out to the movies with friends. And she asked if she could go to an after-school program about a dance program. None of those were diabetes. So you might suffer some setbacks, but keep the road, keep the focus. There's a path forward to a normal relationship that doesn't involve diabetes. And just remember, it's a bag. Shift it, move it, and eventually it'll feel balanced again. And that's what Loop helps you get. It's not about the blood sugars. It's about life and relationships and reseating yourself into a position of normal again. That's huge. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Cheer. It really is. Like, I didn't get one fucking diabetes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not one fucking diabetes text.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And then
Beep.
last question, do you have like a most meaningful story from the community that comes to mind?
That one. Yeah. So my inbox, I wish everybody could read my inbox. My inbox every day. So if you wake up and you say, what would make you happy? Most people reach for coffee, give their spouse a kiss. My husband wakes up too early and goes to the gym, so it's not a spouse kiss that I'm awake for. But when I roll over and I see my text message box, my inbox, my Facebook, they are full of the most amazing stories of people regaining life. So what's a story that's touched me from my involvement with Loop? I've shared a few. There's one lady who wrote me and said, "You've given me back the ability to see my sister-in-law, who is near and dear to my heart, before she died." I thought, how could I have done that? How could that be? She's so hypo unaware that she can't get on a plane and travel. She's too scared to do that. And Loop made it so that she could travel safely, get on a plane, travel from Chicago to Florida, where her sister-in-law was going through chemo treatments. And for the last 3 months of her sister's life, she got to fly down to Florida on the regular and see her and talk to her and visit with her. And it was all because of Loop. I can't tell you like how impactful that is to hear people connecting with relatives and seeing their life completed and whole in that kind of a way. Like, I wish I could share my inbox with everybody. We'd all be nicer people. It's amazing.
That was great, thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to share since we have you on camera?
Oof, got these flies. What I'd like to share. I'd like to tell people to make sure, well, not make sure, that sounds really aggressive. I'd like to tell people that I feel them every time they reach out to me, every time I see them tag a friend. And even if it's not looping related, those community connections mean everything. And find your tribe, hug them tight, and realize you're all in this together. We're all a family through this. And to not be scared to reach out and say, how you doing? And say, yeah, today's a good day. Tomorrow will be better. Whatever the answer is, reach out and make that connection. That's making the difference right now. And that's how looping came about, was somebody over here said, I've got this thing. And somebody over here said, I've got this thing. And we shared, and they shared, and people found their way. And just like Pete told me, you'll find a way. You'll find your space. And everybody has a part to the story, and tell it, share it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Before we can we get one more clap, please? Thank you.
Good, you guys have hard knocks life here.
I need 30 seconds for room tone.
We're just gonna capture the room tone.
Oh,
So we'll just be
so you can
quiet
take it
for
out.
30 seconds.
Room tone.